Hello? Hello? Is anybody out there?
Welcome to All the Shit with Tom and Will. This is the Quick Hit Weekly.
What's up, Tom?
What's going on, Will? Welcome back to All the Shit. What's up, Shithead Nation? We're trying to coin that phrase, so feel free to use that in your daily
You're a
banter.
shithead, I'm a shithead, Tom's definitely a shithead. Shithead Nation.
There you go. So a nation of the three of us. So what's new with you, man? How's your week been?
Oh, man. It's been a week. Bit of an odd week for me. I've been flying solo all week since last Friday.
You mean at home?
Yeah, at home. Caitlin and the kids took off to Panama City Beach.
No kidding. They left you home?
Yeah, I know, right? One, how inconsiderate. Two, not a good idea. Not a good idea. No, so they really wanted to, we wanted to go to the beach one more time before school started and everything. And Caitlin's mom has a place on the beach in Florida. And so just with my schedule and everything, we couldn't make it work. And so they went down this week. So I've hung back and done yard work, workouts, and work, if you notice a trend there. Work being the trend, obviously.
Man, I can't tell you how exciting that sounds. And honestly, if I had a couple of kids and my wife and kids left town for a week and left me home, I'd probably just do yard work too. What else is there to do?
No, well, it's. I did get to go for a hike, a long hike, much longer than I would be able to do with a 50-pound pack and a child in it, and a 7-year-old. So I did get to do that, but like the novelness of a quiet house wears off after 24 hours, and I'm like, I'm pretty freaking boring. What would I do if I didn't have a family? Would I get a second job? I think I'd get a second job. Like, this is the dialogue. What? I don't know what to do with myself, Tom. I've worked out. I've done yard work.
Get a hobby.
What the hell's I'm old and used up. What's my hobby gonna be? This is my hobby. We can't do this every day.
I am jealous of your situation. Like, I travel for work a few times a year.
Right.
And when I do, Anna is home by herself with the dogs. Don't have to put up with any of my bullshit.
Yeah.
I wish that woman would just go on a vacation or something without me, even for just a couple days. It's happened in the past. She's gone on girls' trips. She's gone and hung out with her mom or something. And every time she leaves, I get some major project done that it just it hasn't even been on my radar, and all of a sudden I just get a wild hair and I'm all in. So I edited and put together our wedding and honeymoon video one time, and that was like a whole weekend's worth of work that I was
But how
doing.
is that any different than I'm gonna defend myself here. How is that any different than getting a bunch of house projects or yard work or stuff you haven't been able to get to? How is that any different?
Because those are chores. Another word for that is chores.
Things that need to be done that you wouldn't normally have time to do.
Yeah, chores. So
That editing a wedding video sounds like a fucking chore to me.
Yeah, but if it doesn't get done, nobody cares, right? Nobody even knows.
Does anybody care if the whatever yard work doesn't get done?
Just find something creative to do. You're killing me with this.
What am I going to do creative? I went for a 7-mile hike. That was awesome. That was my high point.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I would probably do something like that too. Take the 2 dogs and just, go run around. High-low wild card.
Yeah.
Where would you categorize this?
The hike was awesome. I really enjoyed that. I paid the price because my feet are indefinitely destroyed, but it was very awesome to be able to do that.
No bears?
No bears. I did run. I came upon a bull. Part of the trail I was hiking on cuts through a cow field.
Okay.
And so it's off the parkway. I can't remember the name, but there's a couple loops, and one of the loops I was doing cuts through a cow field. And the first time I went through, there was a cow there, and it was kind of off. But I'm like, I don't trust you, so I'm just going to kind of slide by. And then once I got through, I decided to do the loop again because I started with a 3-mile loop. It'd been a while since I was hiking. There was a 10-mile loop. I really wish I had done that. So after completing the 3-mile loop, I was like, I'm going to do the 3 again, and then I'm going to do the 1, and then maybe I'm going to do the 3 again, and I'm going to log 10 miles, right? So I do the third one again, and I get to the same spot where the cow was, and now there's several cows. And I'm like, Hey Cal, like doing the hey bear thing. Hey Cal, I'm just gonna slide by, and there's one Cal here, the black one's here, the white one's here, and I get up and I'm right about past the black one, and the white one I look over and I'm like, holy shit, there's a nutsack on that thing like this big. I'm like, that's not a cow, that's a freaking bull. No, bro, no. So I like came out, went completely off the trail, climbed through like 100 yards of thorns and stickers, and like took a total divert to go around. It was crazy. That dude, I was like, I'm not messing with you, bro. Respect.
That's hilarious. I'm just picturing you seeing that and freaking out. That's great.
Yeah, so.
Unrelated, but interesting. So earlier this week, when Grace sent out that email about food trucks coming and stuff, they're going to be parking in the cul-de-sac. I recently listened to another podcast, and they were interviewing a linguist. So I heard, cul-de-sac just kind of triggered something in my mind. I was like, what is that? What's the origin of that, right? So I look it up. It's literally Latin for the bottom of a sack. So from now on, I'm referring to my scrotum as my cul-de-sac.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So unrelated, but
classy.
I was looking for a way to slip that in there, so thanks for that.
Oh yeah, like it's funny how that works. And that was a hell of a cul-de-sac I witnessed.
All right, man. So let me share this with you. The pirate flag emoji episode.
Yeah.
Right. One of my buddies listened to it. We had actually a good conversation about it. He gave me a call and we chatted through it. And literally, I got off the phone with him, and Anna had texted me the pirate flag emoji. So, trial by fire, right?
Yeah.
So what had happened was they were doing road work on our street. And our street is a rural street. It runs behind the ridge of a mountain that parallels the highway. So there's a point at one end, and 30 miles down road, there's a point at the other end. So somewhere on that 30-mile stretch between Christiansburg and Salem, they're doing road work, and the road is closed.
The whole thing.
Like, it's not, you can't get through.
Yeah.
It's a crapshoot as to where it is. So I came home from work and got home okay. But there was the road sign that said, road closed 6 miles ahead. I'm not quite sure how far I live down the road, so,
You're like,
trial
I'm
and error
rolling
for
the
me.
freaking dice, right? Yeah.
So I got home okay. I texted her and I said, hey, I got home okay, so it must be on your side of town, because she works in Salem, I work in Christiansburg, so we go separate ways.
Right.
And we live dead smack in the middle of this road, so it's equidistant for her and me to get out our respective ways. So I text her and tell her, your side is closed. And she says, well, maybe they're done working. Maybe I'll figure it out.
I'm seeing a trend. You guys are risk takers, basically.
I mean, I think in that instance, if she told me she had gotten home, no, you're probably right. I probably would have still would have tried. But the difference is, I would have gone into that like, if I have to turn around and go back, I'll be frustrated, but I'll put something on, I'll listen to it, I'll enjoy myself.
Right.
This girl, no. She schedules everything. And when her schedule gets disrupted, it's almost like a Catholic school schedule, I imagine. If you step out of line, you're going to get cracked. Especially on days when she works and she's been grinding.
Yeah.
So she tells me this, and this is ahead of when I'm talking to my buddy. I get off the phone with him. She texts me and says, holy crap, the road is closed like literally 100 yards before I can get to our driveway. So
I'd
she
be
drove.
Like, slide out and move that freaking sign.
No, they
Like
dug
torn
out the
up?
road. Yeah, so you couldn't get through. That means that she is driven from Salem all the way to the point of she can almost see the house. It's like around another curve and there's the house.
Which from a time perspective is
30 minutes.
30 minutes, yeah.
Now she has to backtrack all the way to Salem.
30 minutes.
Then drive another 20 minutes on the highway to get to the other exit, and then come all the way back the other way.
Yeah.
So for her, after a
She
long
basically
day at work,
quadrupled her drive, yeah.
Yes. And so, she did have the heads up from me, but, thankfully she did send me that pirate flag emoji when she let me know where she got stuck.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I know this is going to be bad. And so the other part of this equation is we've been working on the whole car scenario.
Right.
I think I told you,
yeah.
Last time that we are still waiting to pick up that car because it's in transit. Mm-hmm. So she has the rental car until this Saturday.
Right.
Without knowing when that car is supposed to come in, the rest of it's going to be on us, right? So I've been scrambling to find some way to shuffled the board in our favor.
Yeah.
My parents have 2 vehicles, and I finally worked it out where they would let us borrow one of the vehicles in that space to cover the gap.
Right.
The catch is we would have to drive to Yorktown to get it, which is a 4-hour drive out and back.
Yeah.
And so she gets home from this adventure and is in a foul mood. She walks in. I'm trying to be super nice. I've done the dishes. I'm just like trying to make this as soft a landing as possible. And she comes in, and within 10 minutes, she's like, I think I'd just rather pay money and keep the rental car. I don't want to go on the road trip. And my head almost exploded. Like I said, when I see that pirate flag emoji, I've dug my trench. I'm ready to just duck down and let the bullets fly. But she came in and dropped that one, and I was like, I literally turned to her and then turned away. Like, it was like sniper fire, man. I did not see that one coming, right? And it was so hard for me to not immediately just explode, because for me, for the past 3 weeks, I've been doing all of this stuff to find a vehicle. Where are we going? Who's got one? How can we cover the gap? We don't want to pay the rental fee for this unknown distance. Like, it could be 3 months from now. Who knows?
Yeah.
And so I just feel like she's taking all this work I've done and basically giving me the finger and being like, no, I'm keeping the car. So that was how I felt about it, right?
Right.
So I was just like, you know what? We can talk about that another time. And she brought it up again that evening, like trying to get me to engage on it. And I was like, no, I have to walk away. She's like, what do you mean you have to walk away? I was like, I have to walk away because this is going to make me very mad. I don't want to fight right now. So I left. And then like all night, man, by the time I went to bed, I laid there for 2.5 hours stewing and litigating and building up this whole case. And the next morning it was like, yeah, well, we'll figure it. Like, everything was cool again.
Yeah.
But my God, that was a test. That was a test.
Yeah.
I put way too much effort and stress into that. So.
Yeah. I mean, couple thoughts on that. Quadrupled the commute home. At that point, you just have to realize what's going on, stop at the nearest convenience store and get yourself some road sodas, right? You know what I'm saying? Some roadies, and then just coast into the evening, baby. Take it easy. No, I fully appreciate her perspective and her stance on your schedule getting jacked up. It drives me insane, too. It's like, you could plan out like ... And then somebody, and a lot of times it's been road work before and stuff like that, but I get it. When my schedule gets jacked up, especially if it's something I planned for and I'm squeezing stuff in and I'm trying to compress everything to make it happen, and something or someone destroys that, I'm like, son of a,
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Yeah.
And I completely understand where she's coming from, too.
Yeah.
Right? The point of that story really is just to illustrate, when you're in a stressed mood like that,
Yeah.
anxiety's high, cortisol's high, you make terrible decisions.
Yeah.
In any scenario.
Yeah.
And so I had to understand, and the pirate flag emoji helped me prepare for that. Mm-hmm. And I still almost fell for it and went for the bait. I'm glad that I didn't.
Yeah.
But
that's good. But why did you feel it necessary to build your case?
I don't know. That's the part that was frustrating for me, right? Because I didn't let anything out toward her that was like, well, I did this, and I did this, and I did this. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't about me. Right? That outburst was her expressing frustration at the situation.
Yeah.
And while I took it personally because I felt like I had done so much to make this come together and happen, and I felt like she was shitting on that, and that was what teed me up.
Yeah, when really she was saying, like, I'm freaking frustrated. This was a massive inconvenience, and now I've got this other massive inconvenience that's coming up. I don't even want to deal with that right now. I can't. Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, all that to say, I have a lot more work to do on myself, and
as
just letting
we
it
all
go.
do.
Yeah, man.
So I'm going to guess that was a low.
That was my low.
Yeah.
I mean, the high was the cul-de-sac. But I already covered that.
Classic.
So, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of all of us having a lot of work to do personally, today we're talking about the interview with Jason.
Ooh, another good one, man.
Seriously, I met this guy. This is the third time I've seen him in person that we sit down for this interview.
Yeah.
And he drops all of this stuff that is just, I mean, it's almost paralyzing as, being in my shoes, because again, I don't know him well enough to.
And you're sitting across from the table, like looking at him. Yeah.
So it was overall, he was incredibly forthcoming. He painted a picture for me of a side of life that I've never experienced personally.
Right.
And I haven't even experienced through someone that I know closely.
Mm.
So it was really enlightening to see a perspective that shows just how little you actually know about someone when you first meet them.
Yeah.
Right?
First thing comes to mind is, I commend him for his openness and his transparency and his willingness to engage. I'm like, this dude sounds awesome. Another person I'd like to sit down and talk to. Just his perspective and his outlook on life, kind of regarding all the things he alluded to or directly spoke about, I think appears healthy, at least from the outside looking in, listening to that interview.
For anyone who hasn't listened to the interview with Jason yet, major recurring theme, he is a person in recovery. So he is 5.5 years sober at this point, and what we really dig into is the catalysts throughout his life that both put him on the trajectory to that path, and then what helped get him back out of it, and then of course what he's doing now. So it really paints you the whole roller coaster ride. It blew me away, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think there were 1,000 different strings that could have been pulled on, and you could have, bunny trails if you were. It could have gone in so many different directions with that. I listened to it twice, and there was just so much there. But the base thing, the root of all of it, is that I do not comprehend. I do not understand addiction. I do not, and that's something that I'm going to try to verbalize appropriately but cautiously, because I don't want this to come off negatively, or there's no such thing as addiction, you're weak. Not you, like the respective you, because I'm referring to addiction in general, not just Jason or anybody else. But I don't understand addiction, and the world doesn't compute to me in that way. I don't know why. I can't get my head around it. Everything is a choice, right? And this is where this could go off the rails, so bear with me. Everything is a choice, and we have the power to choose. And certainly at some point I understand chemical or physical dependencies, but at some point in time there was a decision to do something, and there was a decision to do it again and again, and there was a decision to not stop or to stop, but either way you continued on. And I've just never understood addiction. I've drank, I've smoked, I've, done whatever, but I've always been in control. And I've had people in my life that have battled addiction or, gone through recovery and then relapsed. And, I don't want to get into anybody's specifics, or anything like that, but I just don't understand it. To me, at the heart of it all, there is a choice. And if you are choosing something that is destroying yourself, destroying someone else, jeopardizing your family, anything like that, you've made a choice and you've said what's important to you. And again, outside looking in, I just don't understand it. I'm not saying it's not real or it is not a struggle and it's not a disease, any of those things. I just don't understand it.
I think you are very fortunate in that.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, because in the same way when I talk with Anna and she tries to explain to me what her anxiety is like,
right,
and how that affects her, I cannot begin to comprehend it, because for me, letting go of what I consider to be mundane bullshit
is also a choice, right? That's how you see it?
No, it's innate.
It's innate.
Like, I don't even have to choose. I'm just like,
okay,
not important, don't care.
It just falls off the radar, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so for her, the reality that she lives in, I can never fully understand. And so talking to her about it and, me trying to give her advice on how to de-stress or whatever, it doesn't work, because I've never been there. I don't understand it. I have an addiction to nicotine. Mm-hmm. I can say that for sure.
But have you ever really tried to quit?
Yeah.
And you've just been unable to?
Yeah, I've gone from dip to the tobaccoless pouches.
Yeah.
So I quit for a little bit, and then I found that, and I was like, oh, God, The point is, you might not understand it, and again, not saying that you don't believe in it. I'm saying is I'm validating your statement about not understanding.
Right, the perspective. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we overlook is that the addiction is not necessarily, it is a choice, right? Because he is now choosing to be sober.
Right.
As you heard in the interview, it took him unburdening himself of other painful things. Right. To finally get sober for now, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the catalyst that allowed him to stay sober for the last 5.5 years.
Right.
So what I'm inferring from that is that it's not so much a choice to do or not to do. You were dealing with pain.
Right.
And you can either choose to live in that pain or you can escape pain. And your body's natural defense is to always get away from pain. And if you have a substance that allows you to get away from that pain, it's automatic.
We all have our own baggage, varying degrees, extents, all that stuff. But what if there's, just as an example, somebody that has something traumatic in their past, and what is the difference between the two people, the one that turns to substances and X, Y, and Z, and the other that pursues meditation or pursues a successful career and puts all their, you know what I'm saying, like copes with the damage, the pain, the whatever? Is it just, it all stems from a single choice? I mean, I don't know. I don't understand it.
It's life circumstance. I mean, someone who...
But you could have somebody in the same circumstances with two different outcomes, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, when I say life circumstance, I'm talking about who's the support network around you?
Right.
What resources do you have for people checking in on you? What resources do you have to monetarily go and,
right. But I think you could find that you'd have both of those stories could play out in the same exact, like identical circumstances, or you could find situations where the circumstances were similar enough that you could say anecdotally.
It's also biological, man. You did everything that you could do, probably matching the elite level bodybuilders. But you couldn't achieve it, right? There are limiting factors that you are out of your control biologically.
That's a bit of a stretch, but I see where you're going. Yeah. I didn't dump
if you and Phil Heath did the exact same
$100,000 a year into drugs, and
Well, okay.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying. You know where I'm going, right?
Yeah,
so again,
there's differences.
You can do the exact same things, but his circumstances are a little different than yours.
Yeah, but again, I guess that's just part of why I don't understand it, right? Yeah, you see alcoholism, things of that nature run in families, right? So that might say there is a genetic component to it to that point. Is it nurture or nature? Is that learned behavior, right? Because you've seen it, you've been exposed to it, and you start tinkering around with it at a young age, all these things. And again, different situations.
Trauma also runs in families.
Yeah.
Trauma is inherited. I don't think there's any way to scientifically prove a link between addiction and trauma.
No.
But in my mind, I think that is at the root of a lot of it. And what this interview really illustrated for me was the importance and value of not looking at someone just for where they are, but believing in the potential of everyone to get help and to choose to get that help.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I don't think addiction, yes or no, or being a person in recovery or any of that takes away from the value. We all have value, right? So that's a given. But what happens if he never broke that cycle? You take somebody that never broke that cycle or broke it for a few years and keeps running back to that garbage at the expense of their lives, their careers, their families. At some point in time, yes, you are a person, but being attached to you, like, you're my wife, right? Oh my God. I'm definitely the dude in the relationship.
You married up, bud. I'll tell you that.
So anyways, you've got two people, and one is like, I cannot allow you to do this anymore. You're destroying me. You're destroying our children. You're destroying everything. And you keep making a choice to go back to this. So at some point, I have you know what I'm saying? It doesn't take that person's value away, but me, with my limited perspective and my lack of understanding of addiction and dependency, I say, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. I said that backwards.
Well,
but at some point that's a choice, and I can no longer stand by. I'm not going to try and destroy you as a person, but I can't. We're done type thing.
I think a lot of marriages do end up because of that. Yeah.
And is that right? Is that wrong? Is it, it's not for us to say, but I just don't understand. And what I do understand though is the perspective that's like, you're making that choice.
I think you could draw an analog to PTSD.
Right.
All right. So if you're talking about someone whose drug of choice is a narcotic, we tend to look at that negatively because it's social.
Or more negatively than alcohol?
Or alcohol.
Either one.
A substance, right? So if you're abusing a substance, and we don't know your trauma, right? But for someone coming home from war, it's easily understandable why they're traumatized.
Right.
Right. But some of those guys, either they do turn to drugs or they're just not the same person.
Right.
And many marriages for those gentlemen fail as well for the same reason, because, their wife is like, where is the guy that I married?
Yeah.
The kids don't know who you are.
Right.
He doesn't want to let his marriage go, but he also can't make the change because something has altered, right?
Right.
And so, to me, we're going to go take a hard left. We're right here, but hard left, absolutely hard left, if you're thinking about it politically. But I am very excited and encouraged by the use of psychedelics as a means to address trauma. If the root of it is trauma, if that's the case, and let's take Jason, for example, we're talking about his story. Unloading that last huge piece of baggage was the last weight that was holding him down, kept pulling him back into addiction. Once he was able to unload that, and it took him 20 plus years to finally come to grips with what it was that was holding him down, to unburden himself from that and be able to turn that corner. What psychedelics allows you to do is to go and visit those traumatic experiences in a safe environment, as long as you're doing it under guided supervision with a licensed therapist doing this professionally, as a, you don't go
not in an alley behind a dumpster.
Exactly, right?
Vision quest.
Yes. So psychedelics give you the opportunity to look at that trauma in a safe place and process it.
Right.
And that is what allows people to be cured of either addictions, of PTSD, all of these things. And the numbers are ridiculous. But that, again, points to trauma being the issue. So if we're looking at someone with addiction, a lot of cases, like for Jason, it was sexual abuse. But if you are suppressing that and you're holding on to that because of the shame associated with it, you might not even know that is the thing until it's gone, until you let it go, right?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to assess any kind of judgment on a person who is struggling with addiction because you don't know what's gone on in their life and what the catalyst is.
But this doesn't come from a place of judgment. So a couple
not
different...
saying that you are, right?
Yeah, but a couple different ways to go with this. So I think there are people that have been able to overcome addiction or dependency without the use of psychedelics.
Sure.
There's probably people that it's helped. There's probably people that have used psychedelics and it didn't work for and reverted, and so there's all different scenarios. Let's say Anna is battling with addiction, right? And you guys have been through this 10 times, right? And, you try psychedelics, you try this, you try that, and, she's in recovery for a period of time and then she goes back to it. And it's destroying your marriage, it's destroying your life, she's wrecking vehicles, things of that nature. At some point, do you not say, I care about you, I want you to get the help you need, we've tried everything, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And is that right, wrong? Does that, are you throwing that person away? I don't think so. But how do you help somebody who doesn't want help?
You can't.
Right.
This is a conversation we had around fitness and nutrition. You can have someone who is morbidly obese and they quote unquote want to lose weight.
Right.
But until it is the most important thing in your life, you're not going to make that change. It might be in the case of a marriage. Maybe if I'm the person that has that addiction,
right,
and she gives me the ultimatum, hey, you need to get clean, you need to get this figured out or I'm going to leave.
Right.
I would understand what she's saying because I wouldn't expect her to sacrifice her life for me. So I understand. And then it's up to me to say, all right, I need to go to therapy. I need to figure out what it is. What's the root of this that's driving this? And the chemical dependency is real too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can't fix just the chemical dependency if you haven't fixed the root, because then it's going to come back, right? So it's kind of you need to address the trauma, you need to address whatever it is that puts you on this path, and then we can figure out the chemical dependency. Might not be the case for everybody. There could be, people just love to drink. Yeah. People just love to, whatever.
But to me, in that situation where you are the one with the problem, even before you get to the ultimatum, from my perspective, you're telling her you don't care every time you go back to that. The first time, the second time, the third time. And it's like, yeah. And you might be sober for a month and you go back to it. You know what I'm saying? Like your actions say this is more important than you, which I think is ultimately what it gets there. And what I don't understand is that that's the way I view the world. Like you are saying this is more important than this, and this is more important than this, and this is more important than this. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, it boggles my mind. And I mean no disrespect, and the struggle is real. And it makes me sad to see the images and the footage of people in Florida that are walking around like zombies. And, I'm like, what happened? And for some, I'm sure it was trauma. For some, it was one bad decision followed by another. And by the time they knew it, maybe they were in too deep and, writing it off. I don't know. There's a million different stories, right? But I don't understand it.
Yeah, I think that illustrates really well the difference in the way we think. You're a much more analytical thinker, and to you, everything is I can square this off. I can rationalize,
right.
And I'm much more rounded edges. I see a lot more gray than you do in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and that's what makes this interesting conversation with you every week.
Yeah, yeah, likewise. I hope that I conveyed that in the appropriate way because, again, I know chemical, physical, emotional dependency is nothing to laugh about. It's no light matter. And, again, I would love to sit down and pick Jason's brain about this in the non-judgmental, curious, not understanding way. I think we could have that conversation without anybody getting offended or anything like that. But I don't get it. There have been people throughout my life that are absolutely alcoholics, right? And technically, depending on how you classify it, me when I'm drinking, or you when you're drinking, technically you could be an alcoholic if you have more than 2 drinks in a setting. I loved binge drinking. That if I'm going to have one, I'm going to have 10 or more.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
Parties here. Alcoholic, right? But there was never a dependency there. I drink, wouldn't drink. It wasn't a big deal. It didn't stress me out. I want to stop drinking, but I can't stop drinking, And so
I just think you're very fortunate, man.
Yeah.
You're very fortunate. And that's one of the few gifts that God gave you, you short little bald man.
Is immense willpower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I apologize if it didn't come across the right way, but it all comes from a place of love and acceptance and transparency. I wonder, how things work and why things are the way they are.
Yeah, and if anyone out there is listening is an expert in this field or has experience with it and can articulate in a way that I can't, not having been in that situation or studied it professionally in any context, let us know. We would love to talk and just kind of explore this topic a little bit more.
That'd be awesome.
Another thing that I think this really drove home for me is reinforcing the importance of having a father in your life. I think that was the initial catalyst for him was, his dad walking out. And I found myself feeling so many parallels with the young man that I mentored in Colorado. And I wrote about it in the book. And, his story and Jason's have so many parallels.
Right.
The father who left didn't love them, or they had that impression,
right?
And the way that they found gangs and the way that spiraled them even further down.
Yeah.
And it all just stems back to that root of not having someone there, a male figure, to put on a good display of what a male role model should look like in a young man's life.
I wish I could think. Then this kind of goes back, and so the root of my misunderstanding or not understanding, rather, it's not necessarily about addiction. I know there are examples out there. I wish I could think of one right now. But what is it? So whether it's gangs or addiction or whatever we have deemed from a society's perspective as not good, right? Addiction isn't good. Crimes and gangs aren't good, right? I think from a morality standpoint, there's certainly the crimes and gangs aspect is a little bit different. But what is it that you go towards that versus something else? I feel like there's famous people, Jeff Bezos or something like that have come from very meager beginnings. Maybe they didn't have a father, maybe they didn't have a whatever, but they used it for positive. It
goes back to the DNA, man. If you, for example,
or does it all boil down to just one slip up at some point in time? It's impossible to say, but
everybody's story is different,
right?
And that's the whole point of this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's story is different, and prior to this, and the amount of thought that I've had to put into this, I did, guilty as charged. I would lump people together and say, "Oh, this person does this." That category,
right? Groups. I mean? Yeah.
And this has really helped me to realize that I have to stop doing that,
right? Because the first thing you do is you group them, right? And then you start stacking them in hierarchies. Well, this person has more value than this one because they're in this group. When everybody's valuable, everybody matters. We've all got different shit, but guess what? all of that shit stinks.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. And comes back to the root. We're all shitheads, man.
All shitheads.
All shitheads here.
Yeah. I'm a shithead, and my ailment is not understanding anything.
The final main takeaway that I got from this, I thought was really interesting. The common theme between Jason and Scott, when we were talking about men in their lives who did serve as kind of a role model for them, right? Because if you think back to Scott's interview, his dad he was there, but he was distant. They didn't have a close relationship.
An old school dad.
Yes. And Jason's dad was not there.
Right.
And both of them could point to one man in their life. You know, in Scott's case, it was the guy at the church that welcomed him in. In Jason's case, it was the guy at the gym who welcomed him in.
Right.
And both of them hit on, this guy cares about me as a person. You can intuit that from a conversation, the interaction, all of it. And I would guess that neither one of those men ever knew the impact they had on Scott and Jason, respectively.
Right.
And it's a lesson to all of us, everyone listening. It can be the smallest thing to you, but you have the power to change a life with the way that you treat a person in that one instance when they need it.
Right.
And you might not even know they need it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a reminder to, man, just if you have an opportunity to impart just some kindness to a young man in your life who, whether or not you think they're struggling with something. And just some kindness and a way to say, hey, I see you.
Right.
I see you. If you want to share with me, and you don't have to verbalize it, but if you want to share with me, I'm here. Make yourself available and help them to feel safe confiding in you, if that's something that you feel like taking on. But you have an opportunity there. We all do.
Right.
And I think that's really important to remember as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a young man, right? Anybody. And a lot of times I think you'd be surprised it's not just someone that's younger than you. They could be older than you, but, we all have perspective to share. And it's funny, I find myself sharing perspective with people that are older than me, but have had different experiences, and it seems like there's value there, or there's something gained from that. But yeah, I think, again, it pulls back down to just providing value, and you don't have to go around rescuing everybody and, stopping every time you see a car pulled over, changing a tire to push them out of the way and do it for them. It could be simple as a smile, a nod, acknowledging somebody, asking them how their day's going, the cashier, or, tell them to have a great day or something. But certainly, if you're put in a spot, a position, you have the resources, the time, the ability to pour into somebody else. And if you do that, those are going to be the situations where you may not even know what you've done.
Yeah.
But there is value to that, and that you may have changed that person's life without even knowing it. And it's so insignificant. How easy is that to do?
Yeah, and those are the ripples that we talk about, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's your legacy. That's your legacy, is every time you impact someone else. If you have a positive impact in their life, everything that they do based off of that interaction, everything that they radiate out into their community as a result of the way that you treated them, for better or worse, that's your legacy, man. You have to own that.
Yeah.
So if you're about to do something stupid or kick a homeless person, for example, which is happening,
Let me guess.
But
Freaking TikTok.
probably. I mean, this has been going on long before that. Do you remember the bum fights videos? Did you ever see that?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I was 12, dude. I can't,
but that's what I'm talking about, right?
I'm a piece of shit. Yeah.
But it's that kind of stuff, man. Like, you have an opportunity to turn it one way or the other.
Yeah.
And just do your best.
Yeah.
That's all you can do, is do your best. And to your point of pouring into someone, what you consider giving a nickel to the guy on the street might actually wind up being the thing that turns them around. You just don't know, because depending on where they are and how they hear it and how it hits, the impact is, might glance off, or it might really shape someone's life.
And I would argue more times than not, much like Scott said, it's likely less frequently monetary,
Absolutely.
versus, an encouraging word, stopping to listen to somebody for a minute, where that conveys or lets them understand that you see they have value as a person and as an individual, and just that in and of itself, that's a huge ripple, right?
Yeah. So you know, in the monetary context, I was saying giving someone a nickel versus giving them 10 grand.
Right.
You know, pouring everything into them emotionally versus just saying something nice and acknowledging a person's existence. That's kind of what I was going with
Yeah.
that. Like, it doesn't have to be an overt, I'm going to be involved in your life from here on out to make that impact. It can be as simple as saying,
one-off,
hey,
yeah.
welcome, I see you.
Yeah.
That's all people want is, I see you.
Hang in there.
Yeah.
You'll get there. Yeah.
You're not alone. You know, at the end of the day, that's the message. You're not alone. I see you. So, I think that's all I've got to say about that.
Cool, man.
Yeah, buddy. So, yeah, very intense episode, but, I mean, it helped me see a lot, and I really appreciate Jason being open, honest,
Yeah.
transparent, and really giving us so much to chew on. So, thanks, Jay. Thank you all for tuning in, and, you know, we'll chat again next week.
Sounds good.
Peace,
See you,
bro.
Tom.